Welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. Today, we're diving into a really important topic that so many learners struggle with: how to stay motivated when you feel like your progress in English is too slow. I think we've all had that moment where we study, we practice, and we work hard, but when we look at ourselves, it feels like we're not moving forward fast enough.
Exactly. And that feeling can be so discouraging. You put in effort day after day, but when you don't see results right away, you start to wonder, am I doing something wrong? Am I wasting my time? The truth is, progress in language learning is not always visible in the short term. Sometimes the improvements are happening underneath the surface and you don't notice them until one day, suddenly, you can understand something or say something you couldn't before.
That's so true. I like to compare it to going to the gym. If you exercise for 1 week, you don't look in the mirror and see a huge difference. But if you keep going for 3 months or 6 months, then suddenly you look back and think, wow, I've changed so much. Learning English is the same. The progress is slow, but it's building, and it only shows itself if you keep going.
Yes, and I think one of the hardest things is that learners expect fluency to come quickly. They see others speaking well and think, why am I not there yet? But comparison kills motivation. Everyone's journey is different. Some people learn faster because of their environment, their habits, or their background. That doesn't mean you're failing, it just means your path has its own timing.
Absolutely. And here's something important. Just because you don't feel like you're improving doesn't mean you're not. Often, learners underestimate themselves. For example, maybe 3 months ago, you struggled to understand a TV show. Now, you still don't understand everything, but you catch more words and sentences. That's real progress.
Right, and one thing that helps is keeping a language journal. Write down what you can do now, maybe phrases you learned, things you understood, or conversations you managed to have. Then, after a few months, go back and compare. You'll realize that you actually have improved, even if it didn't feel that way every single day.
I love that idea. It makes your progress visible. Another tip is to set smaller, more realistic goals. Instead of saying, I want to be fluent this year, you can say, I want to learn 10 new words this week. Or I want to practice speaking for 5 minutes today. Small goals are easier to reach, and when you achieve them, you feel motivated to keep going.
And motivation often comes from action, not the other way around. People wait until they feel motivated to study, but actually, if you just start, open your book, listen to a podcast, write a sentence, you create momentum. Then the motivation follows.
Exactly. It's like lighting a fire. The first spark is the hardest, but once it's burning, it keeps itself alive. And I think this is the key message. Slow progress is still progress. The only way you lose is if you stop completely.
And here's the thing, motivation is not about waiting until you feel like studying. If you rely on feelings, you'll give up pretty quickly because let's be honest, nobody wakes up every day excited to do grammar drills or listen to difficult English podcasts. Motivation is about creating systems, about showing up even when you don't feel like it, and trusting that the process will carry you forward. That's why building routines is so important. If you have a set time each day for English, maybe while commuting, maybe before bed, you don't have to negotiate with yourself about whether to study. You just do it. And over time, that discipline turns into progress, which then fuels motivation again.
Yes, and another important part is recognizing the small wins you achieve along the way. A lot of learners feel discouraged because they're only focusing on the big goal, like I want to sound like a native speaker, or I want to pass this difficult exam. But those goals take a long time to reach, and if you're only measuring yourself by them, you'll always feel like you're failing. Instead, focus on micro-progress. Maybe yesterday, you didn't understand a podcast, but today you caught 10 new words. That's improvement. Maybe you used a new phrase in a conversation, and the other person understood you. That's progress too. Celebrating those little steps keeps you motivated, because it reminds you that you are moving forward, even if it feels slow.
I love that point. It's like climbing a mountain. You don't look at the peak the whole time, or you'll get overwhelmed. You look at the next step, the next rock, the next corner of the path. And before you know it, you've climbed halfway. Same with English, if you take it step by step, you'll notice that you're already further than you thought.
And let's not forget about community. Studying alone can feel heavy. But when you're part of a group, even if it's just one study buddy, you'll feel supported and encouraged. Joining an online community, practicing with friends, or even listening to podcasts like this, gives you a sense of connection. You're not struggling in isolation, you're part of a bigger journey with millions of learners around the world.
Another reason people lose motivation is because they compare themselves to others. You might see someone on YouTube or Instagram who speaks English fluently, and then you think, why can't I be like that? But what you don't see is their journey. Maybe they've been learning for 10 years, maybe they live in an English-speaking country, or maybe they practice every single day without fail. Your path is different, and that's okay. Instead of comparing, focus on your personal progress, how far you've come since day one.
Yes, and I always tell learners, your only competition is your past self. Did you learn a new word today? Did you watch a video in English and understand more than yesterday? Did you write one paragraph without using a translator? Those are wins. They might feel small, but they add up. It's like planting seeds. At first you don't see much, but over time, the roots grow deeper, and one day the tree is standing tall. Your motivation has to come from those little wins, not just the big ones.
And here's a practical tip: track your progress. Keep a notebook or even a simple note on your phone. Every time you learn a new phrase, write it down. Every time you watch a movie without subtitles, record it. Later, when you feel stuck, you can look back at that list and remind yourself of how much you've achieved. It's proof that you're moving forward, even if you don't feel it every day.
That's such a good point. And also, don't forget to reward yourself. Learning is hard work, so give yourself something to look forward to. Maybe after a week of practicing English, you treat yourself to your favorite dessert, or you watch a movie you love, maybe even in English. Rewards keep the brain motivated, because it connects learning with positive feelings.
Exactly. And remember, the journey doesn't have to be perfect. Some days you'll feel motivated, some days you won't. What matters is that you keep going, even when it feels slow. That's how progress is made.
Another thing that really helps is changing your environment just a little. If you surround yourself with English, even in small ways, it keeps your motivation alive without forcing it. For example, change the language setting on your phone to English, or listen to English music while you're cooking. These tiny changes create a natural connection with the language, so you don't feel like studying is always a heavy task.
Yeah, and it also reminds you that English isn't just for exams or classrooms, it's a living language. When you see it on your phone, hear it in a podcast, or use it to chat with a friend online, you realize you're actually living with the language. That shift makes a huge difference because you're no longer studying English, you're just using it in your daily life.
I also think it's important to set small goals. A lot of learners say, I want to be fluent. But fluency is such a big word, it takes years, and if you only chase that, you'll feel disappointed along the way. Instead, make smaller goals. This week, I'll learn how to order food in English. Or, I'll watch one video and summarize it. Achieving these small goals gives you the energy to keep moving toward fluency.
That's so true. And don't underestimate the power of consistency. Even 10 minutes a day is better than nothing. Imagine this: if you study just 10 minutes every day for 1 year, that's over 60 hours of practice. 60 hours. That's how habits build. You don't need to push yourself for hours and then quit, you just need to show up every day, even for a short time.
And when you do that, your brain starts to trust you. You're showing yourself that you don't give up easily. That feeling, that trust, becomes motivation itself. It's like telling yourself, I may not be perfect yet, but I'm reliable. I'm moving forward. That mindset keeps you strong, even when progress feels slow.
And you know what else? It's really helpful to track your progress in a visible way. For example, keep a notebook where you write down new words every day, or record yourself speaking once a week. When you look back after a few months, you'll notice real progress, even if you didn't feel it day by day. That visible improvement becomes your fuel to keep going.
Yes, I love that. Because sometimes progress is invisible when you only look at today. You might think, I'm still making mistakes, I still can't understand everything. But if you compare yourself now to yourself 6 months ago, the difference is often huge. That's why documenting your journey, whether through writing, recording, or even journaling in English, can be such a powerful motivator.
Another thing learners often forget is celebrating small wins. If you understood a movie scene without subtitles, celebrate it. If you joined a conversation and contributed even one sentence, that's a win. Motivation grows when you give yourself credit, not only when you reach some big achievement.
Exactly. And I think learners should also stop comparing themselves to others. You might see someone who studied for 1 year and already speaks fluently, and then you feel discouraged. But you don't know their background, maybe they studied another language before, or maybe they live abroad. Your journey is yours. The only comparison that matters is you today versus you yesterday.
That's a great point. Motivation doesn't come from being better than others, it comes from being consistent with yourself. And if you ever feel like you're losing energy, go back to your why. Why did you start learning English in the first place? Was it for your career, travel, making friends, or just curiosity? Reconnecting with that original reason can reignite the fire inside you.
Yes, let's dive into routines, because routine is like the secret engine of motivation. When you build small habits into your day, you don't have to depend on willpower all the time. For example, listening to a podcast every morning while you make breakfast, or reading a short English article before bed, it becomes automatic, part of your lifestyle.
Right, and routines take away the pressure of, I need to study for 3 hours. Instead, you do little bits consistently. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Over weeks and months, those little efforts add up to big improvement. And the best part? You don't feel burned out, because it's manageable.
Another routine trick is to attach English practice to something you already do daily. Like, if you drink coffee every morning, make it your English coffee time, watch a short video in English while sipping your coffee. Or if you take the bus, use that ride to review vocabulary. When you connect learning to existing habits, it becomes effortless.
And don't forget variety. Sometimes learners lose motivation because their routine feels boring. If you're always studying the same way, you'll get tired. Mix it up, some days listen to music, some days watch a TV show, some days talk to a friend online. The brain loves novelty, and keeping things fresh can help you stay motivated longer.
Exactly. Routine doesn't mean doing the same thing every day, it means doing something every day, but with flexibility. That way, you always feel progress, but you don't feel trapped.
And when you have those days where motivation feels low, that's when the power of routine really shows. Because even if you don't feel like studying, the habit carries you forward. You do it almost automatically, and that keeps your momentum alive.
Yes, I think real examples can really help. For instance, I know someone who wanted to improve her English speaking, but she felt progress was super slow. At first, she got discouraged because she couldn't have long conversations. But instead of quitting, she made a simple rule for herself. Every day, she would say just one new sentence in English out loud. That's it, just one. Over time, that little step grew into 2 sentences, then a short chat with a friend, and eventually, she was confident enough to join group discussions. What seemed impossible at the start became natural, just by staying consistent with tiny daily actions.
That's such a good example. I also know someone who studied for years and still felt stuck, especially with listening. He said, "I understand words when I read, but when people talk fast, I get lost." Instead of giving up, he started listening to just 5 minutes of podcasts every night before sleep. The first months were tough, but he kept going. A year later, he could follow full conversations. The progress wasn't overnight, but because he didn't quit, he got there.
These stories show that progress isn't always visible right away. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening, but underneath, your brain is working, connecting patterns, absorbing rhythm, building memory. You just need to give it time.
Exactly. Learning is like planting seeds. You don't see the tree right away, but the roots are growing underground. If you stop watering too soon, you'll never see the results. But if you keep going, one day you realize you've built something strong.
One thing that helps when you feel frustrated is to shift your focus from how far I still have to go to what I've already achieved. For example, maybe a year ago you couldn't even introduce yourself in English, but now you can hold short conversations. That's progress, even if it doesn't feel like a big leap.
Yes, and I think journaling can really help with that. Write down new words you've learned, shows you've watched in English, or even small interactions you've had. Later, when you look back, you'll notice how much you've actually improved.
Another tip is to make studying lighter. If you're bored with grammar books, try watching a series you like, or listen to songs and look up the lyrics. When you connect English with things you enjoy, motivation comes more naturally.
Right, because if it feels like a chore, it's hard to stay consistent. But if you mix learning with fun activities, you'll want to keep going. Even playing a video game in English or following English-speaking YouTubers can count as practice.
And don't forget, it's okay to rest. Motivation doesn't mean forcing yourself every single day without pause. Sometimes a short break can refresh your energy and make you excited to come back stronger.
Exactly. Rest is part of the process. It's not about studying endlessly, it's about building a rhythm that you can sustain for months and years.
A really practical way to keep yourself going is to set micro goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent in English," which feels huge and far away, say, "Today I'll learn 5 new words." Or "I'll watch 10 minutes of a video and write down 3 phrases. These tiny steps give you quick wins, and those quick wins create motivation to keep going.
Yes, and sometimes the best thing is to tie those goals to your daily routine. For example, while commuting, listen to a short podcast. When cooking, repeat phrases out loud. Before sleeping, review flashcards. That way, studying becomes part of your lifestyle instead of something extra you need to force yourself to do.
Another trick is to measure progress differently. Don't only measure by test scores or grammar points. Ask yourself, am I more comfortable speaking? Do I understand jokes or casual conversations better? These are real signs of growth, even if they don't show up immediately in numbers.
I love that. And I'd add, reward yourself. If you finish your small goal for the day, give yourself something simple, like watching your favorite show guilt-free, or enjoying a snack. Your brain will link English learning with positive feelings, not stress.
And if you ever feel like you're not moving, remember, motivation isn't about being excited every day. It's about having habits that carry you forward on the days when you don't feel motivated. That's what makes the difference long term.
That's a great reminder, Emily. Motivation is not about being perfect or improving super quickly, it's about continuing even when it feels slow. Every small step is still progress, and one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come.
Exactly. So if you're in that moment where you feel like nothing is working, please don't give up. Your English is growing in ways you might not see yet, and your effort today is building the fluency you'll enjoy tomorrow.
Stay patient, stay kind to yourself, and keep showing up. Improvement is always happening, even in silence.
Thanks for listening, and remember, you're doing better than you think.